Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's a PayPal link down there for anybody that wants to share some love. All is appreciated. And, of course, the StreamYard link is there for anybody that wants to join the panel. Tonight, we're talking about them insanity things going on out in the world again. We got the Fruity Babbles and Apple John's tricking out Froot Loops for $100. Everybody's out there tricking themselves, hoeing themselves, paying tribute to a patronymical daddy that doesn't exist as it relates to our spirituality anyway. We all realize the United States exists in a corporate fashion, and everybody pays tribute to that, but there's but one Father which art in heaven. So everybody's been misled right from the start. Enumeration at birth, at a military hospital and all this. So we're raising a bunch of insane people that are literally whoring themselves out for that king of Babylon, the commerce, wanting everything that Caesar gives them. So let's get into it tonight. We're going to go over some more of those shorts and stuff, but first we're going to get into this one here. This is a public service. So go check them out. This is a public service. I'll drop the link down in the chat. And we're going to go over some specific information. As you folks know, I've been joining in the city council meetings lately. And we're going to go over a topic here as it relates to people being removed from the city council meetings during the public commentary section by saying that they're disrupting the city council meeting with their commentary. And this guy makes some very valid points. He's talking to one of the local sheriffs where he's at. And we're going to listen to the conversation and the demeanor. I'm going to let it play through all the way. And like I said, go check them out. Watch this video yourself. Watch it over and over again until you get the concept of what they're portraying here. And it's very accurate. If you're being asked to make public commentary to your public officials who are obligated to you, then they can't just shut you down and say, well, we're not going to listen to you. That's their basic obligation of public service. Now, I don't recommend being rude, certainly in no manner. But at the same time, if you have to be blunt and somebody gets their feelers hurt, that is not necessarily being rude. Placing succinct facts before them that are objective truths, and they want to sit there and get emotionally butthurt and try to say that you're disrupting the meeting. No, you're disrupting their poor little feelers by making good accusations that they're not doing their job appropriately. And then they turn around and propound it by, again, showing they don't know their basic obligation of public service by having these people removed from these meetings. So please pay attention.
This is a public service.
Your captain? How come you guys aren't arresting people in here anymore?
What do you mean?
Justin was arrested in here 2 weeks ago for holding a sign that they refused to act on with Judge McCaubrey is sitting in that chair right there. Why?
I don't know.
What are your instructions in here?
Just maintain the meeting.
Maintain the meeting. So when somebody's in their public comment period and the commissioners direct you to remove them from the room under arrest for disrupting the meeting, are you going to follow that directive?
Yep, you're instructed to leave.
Yeah. So you're going to let them interrupt our public comment period and tell us to leave. No, I want to make sure that you're aware of your responsibilities to the law. Because when it happens in here and you arrest him, I'm going to fucking name you in the lawsuit, okay? You need to understand that when we have our 3 minutes of time up there.
So again, I'm going to fucking name you in the lawsuit. That may seem kind of rude, and it's using vulgar language. But the reality of it, objectively, they have certain duties, and if they fail those duties, we have the abilities and procedures to be able to take them before their tribunals and have justice served.
That is a designated time that is our time to speak. We can't be interrupting the meeting during our time to speak, right? How can we be interrupting the meeting during our time to speak?
Ladies and gentlemen,
And that's the very point. You know,
please stay tuned.
how can you disrupt something that you're being asked to present? See, if it's time for public commentary, that's the allowance for you to go up and make your public commentary. And again, it doesn't have to be polite and respectful. It should be to prove that you have a certain standard and candor for yourself. But if it's not a detriment to the informal presentment. See, public commentary is not a formal presentment as if though you're restricted by anything. And that's public commentary where people get to freely express their First Amendment. And that participates in the very last element, which is the right to redress the government for grievances. And again, if you're an aggrieved party, it is certainly acceptable to show that grievance by attitude. So again, you don't have to be respectful.
Is that fair?
Mike, I'm not going to give
You don't want to, but see, this is the thing. You're going to follow illegal orders from them, and you're going to act oblivious to it. Does that give you the plausible deniability that Major Fowler referred to in my legal hearing the other day in the courtroom? I mean, literally. We got cops in LPD getting caught up in plausible deniability, and that really sounds like what's going on here. Because when we're in our 3 minutes of time, that's our 3 minutes. The commissioners aren't supposed to be interrupting us. It's actually a violation of our... Yes. And that's exactly what's happening here. And the man's been arrested for it. The man's been directed to leave, and they shut down public comment. They came in here and rearranged this entire room so that they could get their shit together instead of just arbitrarily arresting people, hopefully. But my thing is you guys keep following these orders like little Nazis, and I'm getting sick of it.
Yes, like little Nazis. See, I'm not the only one that thinks this.
They tell you have these elected officials up here taking command of your department and telling you to do things that are unconstitutional, and you guys are just following along like little piggies. I'm wondering what the fuck. When is that shit going to change?
I'm sorry, I feel that way, Michael.
This isn't a sorry I feel that way moment, man. This is a situation where we have the right to speak in a designated public forum, and when they give us our 3 minutes, we have the right to go up there and say anything we want. C.O.W.A.R.D.S v. California says I can use curse words and derogatory language as well. But when they don't like it, if we speak to their character, they're going to just throw us out of the room, and you're going to support that.
Well, again, I hope that doesn't happen.
But it is happening. It happens regularly in here. And I'm trying to get to the whole point of, are you going to follow those illegal directives? If the commissioner tells you that somebody has to leave, and regardless, you're just going to follow it. Whether it's right or wrong or indifferent, you're just going to follow it because they told you to.
Mike, what it boils down to is if they deem you're disrupting a meeting,
okay,
and you're asked to leave.
What it comes down to is if they deem you're being disruptive in a meeting, then you have to leave. No, that's not the way the law reads. That's not the way the law reads. You cannot feel somebody is being disruptive. It has to be disruptive. And like the man is explaining, if you are there for public commentary, they cannot say your public commentary is the disruption. By them interrupting you and getting in their feelers and saying you can't say that, that is the disruption. It is a violation by them. Again, they are the obligated party and they are obligated to you, we the people.
Yeah, you got it.
Then you're going to follow through on that. Okay, so when they deem that I've disrupted the meeting, okay, are you familiar? And I'm not even recording, man. Check it out. Are you familiar with KSA 215922?
Yes.
Okay, let's pull that up and let's take a look at it real quick because I want to make sure you're fully familiar with it. You don't even
pay attention, folks.
Have it in your phone already, ready for the meeting, do you? Because that's what they do over at the
statute for disrupting a public meeting.
Yeah, let's go ahead and.
I can't take it verbatim what it says.
Yeah, because over at the, well, I'm going to pull it up because it's important that you know verbatim what it says because they're misusing it, just like they're doing at the city commission last night.
Yeah, the terminology is specific.
Statute in hand, ready to go, like it's already prepared. So get that to go away so people will quit texting me.
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard.
The law is specific. The letter of the law is specific. They have to follow at minimum the letter of the law so that then they can, if they have any dispute with that, they can go to the spirit of the law. But to start the law out by deeming it yourself as a violation because your feelers are hurt is not part of that process. It is a violation of that process.
Interference with the conduct of a public meeting, public business. All right. So, interference with the conduct of a public meeting, public business, and public buildings is conduct at any public building owned or operated or controlled by the state or its political blah, blah, blah. And it comes down to knowingly deny the public official, public employee, or any other person on such premise lawful rights of such. That means access to facility to leave, come and go, use the facilities, or leave any such public building. Knowingly impede a public official or employee in the lawless performance of their duties by restraint, abduction, coercion, intimidation, or by force or threat of force. Okay? Knowingly refusing or failing to leave. Now, gets particular down here. If such person is committing or threatens to commit or incites others to commit any act which did or would, if completed, disrupt, impair, interfere, or obstruct with the lawful missions, processes, or procedures. Now, mind you, I'm in my public comment period. How can I interfere?
So he's not interfering with the process simply because he starts cussing and swearing, simply because he calls somebody a Nazi, simply because of this or that. He is not interfering. He would be interfering if he went in there and started throwing shit around. That would be interfering. That would be disorderly conduct. But to stand at a podium and speak your mind, no matter how vehement, no matter how aggrieved, no matter how disrespectful, it may come from being aggrieved. So again, if somebody is already aggrieved and you get aggrieved yourself by your feelers getting hurt because they express their grievance as they're allowed to according to that First Amendment, you, by shutting them down, is that violation of the First Amendment.
Here with my own public comment period. That's something you need to keep in mind. Number 4, knowingly impeding, disrupting, or hindering the normal proceedings, and then come down here to by any act of intrusion into the chamber. Okay, this isn't an intrusion into the chamber situation. 5 is going to refer to intrusions into the chamber as well. And if we go on down, it talks about aggravated being with a weapon. And see, because of the fact of the way you guys have overreacted and gone with them, I have suspended my Second Amendment rights for fear that you.
So he's evidently in a state where there is a carry law that says he can go into public with his gun, his weapon. And he's reneging to do that out of fear, because if they do pull one of those stunts on him, and he has that on him, they can escalate it to the aggravated side, saying, well, he had a weapon on him and we felt threatened because of that. See, that's the cowardice they pull, is these word games, and then they don't even understand what the words are used, how the words are used, and that's their violation, is their incompetencies.
You would charge me with a felony under their bullshit designation of 5922. Do you get what I'm getting at? So now not only has my First Amendment right been inhibited by the misuse of this law, my Second Amendment has been chilled.
Understand the language he said there. His First Amendment right has been inhibited, and his Second Amendment right has been chilled because of their inhibitions on the First Amendment, preventing him from freely expressing himself by making certain arrests in previous actions of the same level of demeanor. He now feels even further threatened that if they do that to him while he's carrying a gun, they will escalate it to that aggravated. So he's refraining and taking part of that responsibility on himself. This is an astute character that people need to start understanding. It might be a slow process, and there might be other things that you might have to regard for your own safety to dismiss temporarily. Like he says, be chilled on it. Chill, dude, chill.
By the feared misuse of this law. Do you understand what 5922 is now?
I get what you're saying.
Okay. So we've gone through the law. If I'm up there during my public comment period, this law doesn't give you the ability to say I'm interrupting the meeting. It doesn't give them the ability.
See, he's saying that the officer says that he gets him now. Let's see what happens.
To do that either. It's during my time. I've been given that time.
You make good points.
But it doesn't really matter. If they tell you that I'm disrupting, you're going to just take me out of here.
Directions we have right now.
That's the directions you have. And even though you're being advised that those are going against the codes, against the Kansas statutes that you're sworn to uphold, you're going to go ahead and just do whatever they say.
I'm not saying that.
That's what
I'm not saying that. See, he's being forewarned now. Understand the language. This man is telling this officer that when it comes down to it, They're telling him to do something that they don't have the power to do themselves. And if it comes down to a lawsuit, he's going to start naming him in the lawsuit. And that's what these people will do. They will throw that officer under the bus and claim no culpability. See, when in fact, all of them have a culpability to know the law. When one of the we the people comes forth and shows them that law and they still violate it, it doesn't matter. That's principal to agent, agent to principal. Everybody's culpable to the same measure. They violated their own ethics standards. The knowledge, skills, abilities, characteristics to carry out their job duties. And that is a basic knowing of the language that is written in those laws.
What you are saying, if they tell you that I'm disrupting you and tell you that I have to leave, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Even though in the statute, you can clearly see that according to what they're saying during my public comment period. How can I? Huh? Sure.
I just want to read that. Yeah. One section, dude. I know that 4 and 5 don't apply. Go to 3.
Go to 3. Okay.
What if you could have shades like these?
See, he's got him questioning it now. He's catching on. He said he caught on to what he was saying earlier. Now he's wanting to read it again. And that's what we're looking for, folks. The educational opportunities here, not the defamation and disrespect and everything. That's why I say I don't condone the disrespect, but I'm certainly not going to put it off, because when it comes to being aggrieved, I can certainly understand people being upset. And when people are upset and redressing those grievances to their government, it's not up to their government to get upset because somebody's standing there pointing the finger at them and it's not looking so nice for them. That's the last place that in time that you want to be as a public official, disrespectful to we the people. It will evidence itself more and more progressively as time goes on, as more and more we the people get involved in these community efforts.
Being requested to do so by the chief administrator or such officer's designee charged with maintaining order in such public building if such person is committing. Those are the key words there.
Well, we shouldn't have any presentations for the regular Zoom meeting.
During my public comment, I can't be disrupting. Okay, so can we see an adjustment happening with the sheriff's department now?
Well, I think, again, were you arrested, or was
Justin was
he arrested during public comment?
He was arrested over his sign, and then he was silenced several times with public comment. I'm wanting to get.
See, he was merely, this Justin guy evidently was merely just in the forum with a sign, and they said he couldn't do that. He was silent and just had a sign. You've got a mouth, but you don't have to use it. But that doesn't mean you still have no way of speaking. There are many different ways of expressing oneself. And by standing there with a sign, that is a freedom of expression, a freedom of speech done through a different expression other than speech. Oral speech. So again, it's a violation of the First Amendment by having him and his sign removed and thrown in jail.
Relate to me.
Well, it's interesting because Karen Willie directed that the 2 men with signs be removed, and then they just focused in on Justin and removed him. So that's a little confusing about how all that played out. What I'm trying to get to is the 5922 that they're using. Do you understand?
Now I get where you're coming from.
Okay. I think they may, and maybe you can help your people.
No, I think I get where you're coming from. And they should, and they may understand it, and they may know that they're using it errantly, but it doesn't matter. Now the line is drawn. It's been brought to the attention, and if they refuse to acknowledge it and just say, well, no, it's up to our determination, that is not the way the law reads. And like this man says, he's willing to bring them all into a lawsuit. Part of the problem is most people don't follow through with that. Many people make that threat, I'm going to take your house, and then don't follow through with it. Much like Paul has no idea of how to present a case to take somebody's house. So he makes a baseless threat, and they know this.
People at LPD, because this is what they're using on me now at the city for 2 weeks in a row.
See, Michael, I need to research it more.
Okay. Well, you guys need to.
I can do that tomorrow.
because I'm being accused of violating these statutes. So I dig into them and I start looking into them. I'm not a dumb
You're an
person.
intelligent guy.
So these statutes, there's nothing being violated during 3 minutes of public comment.
If you want me to look into it more, I can give you a call this week.
Please. I'd just like some clarification from the sheriff's department as to what's going to be acceptable and not in here, because the problem is we have commissioners that are very inconsistent about what they allow and what they don't. One weekend a sign's allowed, one person can bring a sign, another person can't. You can sometimes have it up there, you sometimes can't. But,
Honestly, that's not fine.
but the problem is Justin had a sign up there that they kept shutting his mic off and shutting everything down over. And this is, I tried to ask Patrick Kelly last week after that meeting if we were done arresting people for free speech, and all he'll tell me is that he's received my email and has nothing to say. So my point is I'd like to be done with this fucking commission.
Received his email and has nothing to say. They have a duty to respond. They have a duty of informing. They have a duty to basic moral ethics to communicate with the very people that they're obligated to. We have to quit letting these people just be non-responsive.
Room. But the only way I can do that is if I can get an assurance that we're done fucking around with the First Amendment. Is that fair? Okay. So if anybody that's in charge around here wants to clarify.
Absolutely. We're done fucking around with the First Amendment. The freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the freedom of people to gather peaceably, the freedom to redress the government for grievances.
We're going to quit fucking with people about free speech. I'll be happy to go home. Thank you. And by the way, you guys don't get any leave with me anymore. No, Sheriff's Department used to get a little leave with me because you guys were a little different. Those days are over because of what I saw in here and because of the way Armbruster acts.
From a couple weeks ago.
Yep. And because.
Yeah, see, you can't give them any leeway, folks. These people are supposed to be held to a higher degree of moral ethics than anybody else. They're deemed to know the law, and by that, they're deemed to be upheld to that standard. This again is the principle why I say you do not want to be my friend. I will uphold you to the same standard.
This guy buddies. Well, yeah, we don't anymore though. This guy buddies up to me. His girlfriend buddies up to me, and then they come up here and violate rights. You know, buddy up to me and then turn around and start violating rights. So you guys are all the same blue line. That's the problem. You stood here and argued with me 10 minutes telling me that just because the commissioner says to do it, you're going to do it. You're not armed fucking Gestapo thugs. You have.
Again, absolutely. You are not armed Gestapo thugs. You are not Hitler's willing executioners. Yet that is what it looks like.
Have to follow the fucking laws, guys. And just because the commissioner says to do it, if it's outside the law, it's your ass. So it's time we wake up around here.
We're out here.
Absolutely. So again, go over and check him out. This is a public service. The link is down in the chat, and go check him out.
Today to ensure our natural rights are respected by those who swore an oath to support, protect, and defend the rights of the people. The purpose of all interactions is to peacefully promote government accountability and transparency. Please like, share, and subscribe so this message can reach as many people as possible.
Okay. Now we're going to get into some shorts. Now we're going to get into some shorts, and we're going to start with one of my favorite guys as he talks about veganism and what destruction it brings and why Monsanto and all these herbicides are so important to this industrial farming and all these teacup total and silver spoon fed motherfucking cupcake privileged entitled people thinking that their way of life is somehow more equitous, when in fact, when you look in the deep details, it's one of the most destructive forces on earth.
If you really want to kill the most things, be a vegan, because the farmers who protect your beans kill everything. I kill one animal per arrow. In order to grow tofu, you have to...
And just in case you guys don't know, this is Ted Nugent.
Kill every ground squirrel, every vole, every shrew, every snake, every turtle, every frog, every bird, every rabbit, anything that gets in that bean field, I'm either going to plow and dismember, which is why the crows and the seagulls follow the
Combines.
and then if anything does survive my first slaughter, I'm going to come in with Monsanto and poison the shit out of everything so you can have a tofu salad and not be responsible for any death. Fuck you. If you
See, when it correlates in truth, you understand a little bit more comprehensively, maybe, the destruction of this industrial farming. And this has been going on since the late 60s when they first started introducing it, and farmers were going under during the farm frauds. And we had all these industrial farm complexes start moving in, and all the family farms were lost to the mortgage shit, you know. So again, understand that it's not just big pharma, it's not just the medical industry, it's not just the education system. It's everything in this system is geared towards destruction.
Well, I just watched a delightful little film that I'm now learning movie critics have described as being transphobic, triggering, and unfunny, which I got to tell you, shocks me. I would have expected Hollywood to love this movie because Lady Ballers is all about the epic journey of a bunch of washed up male athletes who one day suddenly and totally unsuspiciously decide that they're females so they can compete in a bunch of women's sporting events because they are women. And if you say otherwise, you're a bigot. But for some reason, Hollywood didn't like it. And I'm like, wait a second, when this happens in real life, it's beautiful and courageous. But when the Daily Wire has the courage to be able to depict it on the big screen, all of a sudden it's triggering. I just don't understand the world anymore. I would have thought they would have complimented these brave women on having the balls to do this.
Absolutely. The hypocritical industries that placate Dylan Mulvaney and things like that. And then when somebody actually wants to come out and put it on big screen, instead of just little commercials and little political agendas and stuff, they want to make it mainstream and make it a satire or something. And then all of a sudden their feelers get hurt again and say, well, you can't do that. That's for us to do. It's pathetic.
See that video sign over there? It says no
Oh,
video.
I've already recorded that sign, sir.
Then you know you're not supposed to.
Sir, can I get your name and badge number, please?
I'm not falling.
This guy makes a perfect point, just like that first video we watched. Just because you say so doesn't mean it's law. You have to refer to the law that it's referencing. It says there's no video allowed here. And when you go to that law, it's got specific wording, so you better be knowing what you're talking about. You can't just start posting signs and say, well, we don't want your video in, and if you do, we're going to remove you from the property. You can't do that. That's making up laws.
For that trap, all right?
It's a trap to identify yourself to a member of the public?
Yeah. See that sign right there?
Oh, yeah, I recorded it already.
You can't video it, right?
I understand that anybody could put a sign. That doesn't make it lawful, and it doesn't mean that it's attached to any sort of statute.
You're not going to be allowed to video it.
What lawful reason can I not video? Because I have a constitution protected right of First Amendment under the freedom of press.
Spit the laws out.
It kind of seems like...
Yeah, spit the laws out. Yeah, we want to live in make-believe here while you spit the laws out. See, they're not going to pay attention to laws because they want to live in this make-believe. The make-believe is what gives them the authority when they don't. Again, look at this guy. He can't be but 28 years old or so. Come the fuck on. The guy has spent no time in any educational system learning about the laws whatsoever. Period. Just like the other one. It was the sheriff that he was talking to, and the sheriff had to be re-educated or educated for the first time on what the language of that statute was actually saying, despite the fact that he said he knew it verbatim.
Like that's what you want, right?
Yeah, but when videos,
you can know what the law says verbatim, but if you don't comprehend what it means, then you don't have the comprehension. That's a requirement.
restricted here. When you went to the courthouse the other day and they kicked you out.
There's a judge's order in the courthouse that we'll find that out in the lawsuit, but there's no order here. There's no law.
The policy that they have, I'm sure it's very similar with the one that the judge has.
And so the judge kicking him out of the courthouse by the judge's order is still unlawful. That's again just like City Hall saying that you can't attend the meeting. No, or you can't do that. It's like the courts when they put that protection order against me. Even in a protection order, they had to allow me in the courts, but there was a condition on when I could appear in those courts, and I had to make a certain presentment.
Can I speak?
And remember, folks, I never presented them any ID or anything like that after the initial stop or anything. And so they already knew who I was. So it wasn't a matter of identification. It was a matter of their fear mongering, trying to intimidate me. But remember, I traveled back and forth to that very same court case, all the different hearings, in the very same truck that they pulled me over in, with the very same private property placards on it, and parked my happy ass right in the goddamn parking lot.
To a supervisor?
We got a call to someone with a bulletproof vest walking around outside.
Oh, it's a utility vest.
We got reports of somebody walking around with a bulletproof vest. Well, that was a great discernment. Wear a utility vest and somebody else calls it a bulletproof vest, so send the police. See the fear mongering? Correlation. Somebody takes a utility vest and says, well, they're wearing a bulletproof vest. Did you go talk to the man and clarify that was a bulletproof vest? Or did you just make a false claim and make a false alert through their call system, through their dispatch system?
I know, but you know that there's no law associated with that sign. It doesn't override the Constitution. I don't plan on going.
Okay, but if you could just stay out of restricted areas, it'd be okay. So he avoided the question about whether he knew that there was no law that said that, and just simply said, just stay out of the restricted areas. He never went into them. And that's their issue, that they've got restricted areas. They don't want people going in. He's not going in them. He sees the signs. He's videoing from the public. So it's obviously somebody that's already made his discernments and is making them appropriately.
Into restricted areas. So have a great day.
Hey, Mr. Gray.
Yes, sir.
Can you put that down for me, please?
What's the phone?
Yes, put it down.
I'd rather not. I like to have it.
This is a great one, guys. This tells you their primary intent from the beginning. I mean, during all of their incidents where they have interactions with the public, they're trying to do something nefarious, and they want to find some way to hide it. And they believe the people are stupid, and that if they do make threats of taking them to court, they may mean it, but they probably won't follow up with it, because it is quite the process, and it does take a matter of knowledge, and most people don't know that. So they're very forward in their efforts because they think people are that fucking stupid.
Mr. Gray.
Yes, sir.
Can you please put it down?
I'm not touching it. I got it right there.
Yes, I know. And I know what that phone does. Please put it down so it's not recording me, please.
Yes.
And I know what that phone does, so please put it down so it's not recording me, please. Excuse me. There is case law that says we the people have the right to record the public's or the officials in public. You're in public. You have every right to ask us, and that's fine. But when you ask us to do that, again, that's what points out that you're nefarious in your deeds and want to hide something. Otherwise, you would have no problem with being recorded under good faith of your taking that oath under God, which says, thou shalt not bear false witness on your brother. And I'm telling you, I'm tired of people planting evidence on others and projecting false things and presuming that there's a crime with no probable cause, and then demanding identification without reasonable articulable suspicion as it relates to that probable cause. This is just fucking insanity.
Sir, I'd rather not. I'm going to go ahead and record. I know it's my right to be able to record.
Excuse me?
I know it's my right to be able to record.
No, not to record me.
No, not to record me. Yeah, you're an officer of the public, and you are in public, and you have approached somebody else that you are obligated to in public. And now you're telling them, the one that you're obligated to, that they don't have the right to record you. Because you want to violate your obligation by violating the rights of the people that you're obligated to.
Yes, sir. Audio and video.
No.
I'll let you know when I first pulled up.
No.
It's a citizen has the right to film public officials.
Okay.
It's First Amendment protected free speech.
Okay. Put the phone down, please.
I just got to sit in there. It's recording. I'm on, and you know it's recording.
Okay.
Am I being detained or am I free to go?
You're free to go.
You're free to go. No, you're still detaining him because, and you have been detaining him because you required his ID that you're still holding in your fucking hand. And now that you're still holding it in your fucking hand, meaning that you're still detaining him because you did not give his property back, that is not your property. And you are using it nefariously to help yourself in your own private gain.
That's fine. I'm just recording. It's just for my protection of yours.
You want to go? Go ahead.
I'll get my ID back.
I'll let you know. Hey, Mr. Gray.
Yes, sir.
You want to go? Go ahead. He's still holding his ID. Has to request to have his ID back before he can go. This is how idiot these people are. They don't know where they're at right now. As Jack says, do you know where you're at right now? Well, right now, you're at the side of the road, detaining me, and you still have my property telling me I can go when you haven't given me my property back yet. Come on, buddy. Snap to it. Snap into the now time.
Well, I saw it, so now you have to.
Where the f does it say that you have the right to an AR-15 in the Second Amendment?
And this is what I talk about with the civics. You know, when immigrants when immigrants come to this country and they have to pass a civics test, but the American people that are born here don't. And then those that are educated here in civics, evidently, this is what we get.
It doesn't, probably because it hadn't been invented yet.
Go ahead, show me. I'll wait. I'm a whole civics teacher.
I'm a whole ass civics teacher. Then you would know the principle is that the founding fathers made it open enough that it would include technological advances, even when it comes to your other freedoms, such as freedom of the press. We now have the freedom of the press in the media that we're on right now doing this very stream. Whereas before it was limited to newspapers and magazines and things like that. Now we have an electronic technology that allows us to express ourselves in this media. So it involves the evolving technologies. So even though it didn't say AR-15, it's because they didn't know back then that somebody would create an AR-15, but the amendment is left open enough that it includes AR-15s. The right of the people to bear and keep arms shall not be infringed.
Well, for a whole civics teacher, you are making a lot of half-assed arguments.
I've never seen the word AR-15 mentioned in the Constitution. Go ahead, show us.
Okay, civics teacher, let's see if I can help here. The reason why the founders used generalized terms like arms instead of specifically listing out every weapon system that existed then or could exist in the future was because they were protecting a general right. Kind of like they didn't specifically mention means of communication when they talked about your freedom of speech because they knew technology could change. They didn't call out specific religions covered under freedom of religion. They didn't cover out specific news agencies covered by freedom of the press. It's because they were protecting general rights, and they used their words very carefully to protect this. from people like you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. From people like this that have gone into this system and are now educating others in civics because they are a whole ass civics teacher. And this is the thing that confounds me again. If you think this nation is a strong, healthy nation, then you are definitely confused. Not only do we have an average reading comprehension of the American people of 7th and 8th grade, this is what we end up with as teachers. It's sickening.
It is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. It is my opinion that you do not really understand the concept of banking. All the banks are broke. Bank Santander, Deutsche Bank, Royal Bank of Scotland, they're all broke. And why are they broke? It isn't an act of God. It isn't some sort of tsunami. They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time. And yet governments and central banks do it all the time. Central banks repress the amount of interest that rates are, so we don't have the real cost of money. And yet we blame the real retail banks for manipulating LIBOR. The sheer effrontery of this is quite astonishing. It's central banks that manipulate interest rates, Commissioner. And plus, underneath all this, we talk loosely, in a rather cavalier fashion, do we not, about deposit guarantees. So when banks go broke through their own incompetence and chicanery, the taxpayer picks up the tab. It's theft from the taxpayer. It is my opinion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We find out that they're taking certain instrumentalities, again, because the public education system does not teach us the proper qualifications or restrictions that we make on signatures that would protect us, and instead teaches a blank endorsement, first and last name as a regular signature on every document and nothing else. And therefore it goes as a blank endorsement, where they take that as an abandonment and then put it on their side of the ledger as an asset. Poof, magic out of money out of thin air, magically. Some asset arrives, whereas a bank is not allowed to have an asset, yet they're ledgering it on the accounts receivable, which indicates an asset, and yet nobody questions where that asset comes from, because again, the bank can't actually have assets.
Today, I'm going to try to unblock the Canadian news social media channels by crossing the border into the United States. Right now, if I look, all of the content is blocked from these different channels, Narcity, CTV, CBC. But as soon as
This is talking about the internet as you cross the border. Even the border. See, they have those interlocal agreements, and they're so fine-tuned by the radio frequency that once you cross the border, certain activities happen on your devices that all of a sudden allow things that have been blocked on the other side of the borders.
As I cross the border, will that change? About to cross into Buffalo, New York on the Peace Bridge. Let's see. I think it will. All right, baby, we made it. I am now in the United States. I'm just parked. I'm going to bring up Instagram and see if anything's changed. Oh, my God. There it is. Look at that. It's all back.
And what this indicates is that there's a forum, an open market forum in the United States and other areas of the world that Canada is restricting, which is a discrimination. In my opinion, of course. It's a limitation of services that are available internationally.
Oh, I've missed all the Canadian cultural stuff. Wow. Too bad nobody in Canada will see this video.
Wow, why did Canada block all that stuff? I don't know the answer to that. I also don't understand why Canada is a separate country.
Today I'm going to...
I agree with that last question, too. I don't understand why Canada is a separate country.
How can only men enforce the rights?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. You have rights.
How can only men enforce the rights of women? And again, I don't care if you don't agree with my opinion and my outlook on this, but again, that was your downfall, women. When you stood up and started fighting for your feminine rights, what you did was you gave up your feminine rights by trying to act like a fucking man. Sit back down, let the man do his fucking job.
Rights, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what is a right? Here's the actual explanation. Men are the enforcers of rights. Rights don't exist. They don't exist.
Absolutely. Rights do not exist. If you want to assert a right, it is equally and only enforceable by the actual realization that it's not necessarily a right, but a responsibility. Gentlemen, if you think you have a right to copulate in life and bring forth an heir to your legacy throne, then you damn well better be able to respect that woman enough to protect her and let her know how you can protect her. Without that, she will stand up for her feminine rights because you're not protecting her. She's being abused, and this is the problem. You cannot abuse your women in your relationships just because you're their boss. You still have to hold an self-accountability and respect for her. But let's continue.
You can't taste them. You can't touch them. You can't see them. They're a social construction.
No.
They are not real. Okay, what he's saying is it's an intellectual, intangible ideology of rights. It's based on your emotions and your logic and reason both. You have to be able to understand how to correlate the things that are good and bad for you in life and what you have as a determining factor that allows you to make a choice for the better. That's your right. And that takes a definite responsibility of observations of your surroundings and contemplating your past actions and the effects thereof so you yourself can make them better. And this is what we're talking about with women. If we keep, as men, making the situation for the women worse, they will stand up for their rights. They will be forced by nature to start acting like men, to fight for those rights. So it's not just necessarily a feminine problem of women standing up for their rights, but the fact that men failed their job in doing so as well.
Our rights are real.
They're socially constructed. Can you, point out a right for me real
So
quick.
how do you call it?
Hey, is there a right over there? What about over there? Is there a right?
See, and he's absolutely right. A right is a social construction. Again, if you think you have a right as a man to copulate, you have to have a good social construction to be able to do so with a woman, specifically in today's modern time, where if you don't do it right, she might just abort that child. So you have to have a certain respect for the woman that you want to have that child with, in knowing that she's going to give you a return respect to raise that child the way you want her to, and not by the way of some patronymical father that's going to support her if she gets butthurt and wants to go run to him and his welfare system while he cucks you out. You need to learn how to stand up and be a goddamn man.
Down there? Is there a right? I don't see any. Where are they?
How can only men enforce the rights?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. You have rights, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what is a right? Here's the actual explanation. Men are the enforcers of rights. Rights don't exist. They don't exist. You can't taste them. You can't touch them. You can't see them. They're a social construction.
No, our rights are real.
They're socially constructed. Can you, point out a right for me real
So
quick.
how do you call it?
Hey, is there a right over there? What about over there? Is there a right down there? Is there a right? I don't see any. Where are they?
How can only men enforce the rights?
Well, I'm glad that.
You know, a wise older gentleman once told me that if you even have a little bit of personal responsibility and assume
And this is what I'm talking about, folks.
agency over your own decisions, then regardless of the circumstances,
If you have any responsibility of agency over your own decisions, then regardless of what anybody else does,
you will most likely be able to improve your situation. By contrast, if you have a victim mentality, it doesn't matter how ideal the circumstances are, you will screw it up. Probably because you're less concerned about actually taking responsibility and improving your situation than you are having someone to blame for it.
absolutely. You have to get out of that victim mentality and quit fighting for a solution to have somebody else bring you resolve. You have to be the problem solver. In that, you have to have that responsibility first and foremost for your own decisions so that they aren't the problem.
Trump is too smart to be dealing with these people.
Illegal immigrants are causing tremendous crime. Tremendous.
Immigrants commit less crime than U.S.-born citizens.
Illegal immigrants. I'm talking about illegal immigrants. I'm not talking about immigrants. I'm talking about illegal immigrants. I'm an immigrant. You're an immigrant. We're all immigrants.
The Pew Research says that there are, for immigrants on the whole,
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you don't even know what you're talking about. Try getting it out. Go ahead. You're a very naive person.
Trump is too...
Beast. And he's absolutely right. This woman doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. Not one fucking bit does she have any conscious concept of what she's actually talking about. She is taking false statistics and trying to portray them to make him out in a bad light. They do it all the time. That's their tactic. Smear campaigns.
Hey, sir, can you not follow us, please? Can you step away from my car? Can you please step away from my car, sir? I'm trying to get out of here and you're blocking me.
I know you're trying to get out here because you escalated the situation.
Well,
you escalated the situation. Listen, if you don't want to be on video, you don't go up to the cameraman. That's escalating the situation. You go out of the scene. You walk off stage. Or if you have to remain on stage, do whatever you need to provide your own privacy. That is your responsibility. But when you leave that responsibility because you're butthurt and want to violate somebody else's right and escalate the situation and then say that they're escalating, you're going to prove yourself wrong. Pay attention.
well, you ran at my camera guy.
What's going on, guys? They came up in these tie-back seats and they started filming the computer. And this guy recorded. They can record. 100% they can record you. They can record anybody they want. It's a public area. First Amendment protected activity. And
Oh, shit. Ken the Cupcake is sore. He doesn't get his feelings to get justified. So now he's going to be even sorer. Aw, poor baby.
Hey, sir, can you not follow us, please? Can you step away from my car? Can you please step away from my car, sir? I'm trying to get out of here and you're blocking me.
I know you're
in.
trying to get out here because you escalated the situation.
Well, you ran at my camera guy.
What's going on, guys? They came up in these tie-back seats and they started filming the computer. And this guy recorded. They can record. 100% they can record you. They can record anybody they want. It's a public area. First Amendment protected activity. And
Absolutely, and that's like a situation with my wife years back. She wanted to file a divorce because she said I got violent with her. And this is after an argument started in the living room. I didn't like the way things were going. I was getting upset, decided it was time for me to calm down. So I told her to leave me alone while I go out in the kitchen and make dinner. Went out to the kitchen and started making dinner. She followed me right out to the kitchen and kept on. So I said, tell you what, you make dinner. I'm going to go out to the garage to calm down. You need to leave me alone. Went out to the garage. Guess what? She comes out to the garage too. Said, listen, I'm going to go outside. Again, I'm suggesting that you leave me the fuck alone. I went outside. She again came outside. Said, okay, now I'm done. I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to leave. She stepped in front of me and tried to prevent me from leaving. So I slammed down my pop on the concrete and yelled right in her face to get the fuck out of my way. Now, when it came time for her to try to press that issue, it was very easy for her to say that she had 4 witnesses as neighbors that were going to say that on the stand and testify that I got in her face and got extremely loud and violent with my language and threw down my pop as they saw it all. However, the part that they didn't see was the fact that this woman professing that she was afraid of me and my violence is the one that egged it on all the way in from the living room, and therefore could not profess that she was actually truly afraid of me, but was in fact actually trying to trigger me. You better know your place, folks. Truth needs no defense.
Okay, question? Yeah, go ahead. Sure. She's shocked.
Beast again. Beast again.
Shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
Beast. I love
Question?
Trump for
Yeah,
hating
go ahead.
fake news.
Sure. She's shocked that I picked her. She's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
Most fun thing about Bill C-63. I had to reread this section like 3 times before I could believe it was true. So my understanding is that I can go to a provincial magistrate and I can say that I fear that someone I know may commit a hate crime, let's say this year. Not even that the threat is real, but that I'm afraid that it might be real. Right. And that magistrate can act on that by, well, the penalty laid out in the bill, as far as I can tell, was, well, if you're the person who is eliciting the fear, then you get to have an ankle bracelet on for a year, and you can be essentially confined to your house. And the court can determine who you can talk to and who you can't talk to. And they can also require you to have your bodily fluids monitored. They could put restrictions on your right to consume alcohol, anything that would, in principle, heighten the probability that you might commit the hate speech. Most fun thing about Bill C-63. I had to reread this section like 3 times before.
That you might commit the hate speech. Okay? As long as there's no threats, then there's absolutely no law against speech that portrays hate. There is no law yet, folks. And notice I said yet. We're coming upon a time, like I said, with all these transgender and transhuman rights, with cupcakes, rainbows, and unicorns, where people get to believe that as men, they can be women, and as women, they can be men. We're coming upon insane things popping up in our laws. Again, we've got plastic straws and paper wraps that are legislated out only so we can revert to paper straws and plastic wraps. And so therefore there is no real solution. We just continue on in the insanity. When will you stop it?
Well, did you see what they did in Germany? Yeah, I believe the pronunciation is Holzsackmaschine. Means wood chipper. You guys are going to want to get some. Well, did you see what they did in Germany?
Germany's parliament has officially voted to decriminalize the possession of child pornography. The movie is being celebrated by pedophile rights activist group, which has also called for the age of consent to be dropped to 12. Sickening.
2 IMPD officers indicted by a grand jury are expected to make their first appearance in court later this morning. Officer Carl Chandler and Alexander Gregory are facing multiple charges for the shooting of 24-year-old Anthony Macklin who'd been asleep in his car outside his grandmother's house last December. CBS 4's Cameron Riddle joins us live at the courthouse this morning with the very latest on what we know ahead of this morning's court hearing. Good morning, Cameron.
Hey, good morning. Both of those officers are now facing multiple felony charges for the shooting that happened on New Year's Eve. It was caught on body camera video, and it shows officers firing dozens of rounds toward 24-year-old Anthony Macklin. The charges against Officer Chandler and Officer Gregory include aggravated battery, battery with a deadly weapon, and battery resulting in serious bodily injury. IMPD released this body camera footage after the incident where Officers Chandler and Gregory found Macklin sleeping inside of a rental car. They responded after his grandmother called for officers to come check out the vehicle because she did not recognize it. Well, during the attempt to wake up Macklin, the officers saw that he was sleeping with a gun on his lap. Police say Macklin never fired the weapon, but body camera video shows the officers firing dozens of shots into the car. IMPD says there was no clear view of the position of the gun after Macklin woke up and moved his arm. After being shot, he said he slept in the car because he didn't want to wake up his grandmother. He survived that shooting after having 6 surgeries and being hospitalized for 17 days.
We know police officers can use force when most of us in the community cannot, but that force has to be reasonable under the circumstances. And so when we're going to have these conversations about reasonableness, we think it makes sense to present this to the grand jury, which is comprised of members of our community.
It is not reasonable for men that are supposed to be searching out criminals and stuff in the community and supposed to have a certain machismo and bravado to totally act like cowards 100% of the time. And that's seemingly what we have, folks. In my opinion, of course.
Macklin's attorney shared a statement with us calling the shooting senseless. It reads in part, quote, Anthony's only offense was being a young black man in a high crime neighborhood. This shoot first can ask questions later approach to policing is illegal and it cannot be tolerated, which is why the family is grateful for the criminal process and that it will proceed against Officers Gregory and Chandler. A statement from the officer's attorney says these officers acted in accordance with their training to defend their lives when a subject grabbed a gun and raised it toward them. Officers Chandler and Gregory look forward to a full and fair opportunity to defend themselves in court and establish that they acted legally and appropriately. IMPD tells us both officers are now on paid leave. They are expected in court later this morning. We're live at the Community Justice Complex.
So we see a couple more egregious cowards raising the bills for communities because of their very cowardice, because of their very unknowing, because of their very limited capacity of discretion and compassion and care and concern, and the things that are held high in moral ethics departments.
It's like the people who say, I don't have time for small talk. It's like, well, people aren't going to bare their hearts to you the first second they meet you. They're going to tell you something trivial to see if you're so stupid you can't even respond to that. And, I don't have time for small talk generally means I have no social skills. It's like the people who say, I don't have time for small talk. It's like, well, people aren't going to bare their hearts to you the first second they meet you. They're going to tell you something trivial to see if you're so stupid you can't even respond to that. And, I don't have time for small talk generally means I have no social skills. It's like the people who say, I don't have time for small talk. It's like, well, people aren't going to bare their hearts to you the first second they meet you. They're going to tell you something trivial to see if you're so stupid you can't even respond to that. And, I don't have time for small talk generally means I have no social skills.
Absolutely, folks. Hope you paid attention.
It's really satisfying to see parents step up and just shut down these school boards.
The parents are taking the wheel. I have an 8-year-old daughter who is absolutely dynamic, who can do anything. Athletically, intellectually, spiritually, and emotionally, she is a dynamo.
And I honestly believe that children are actually autodidactic to begin with, and that we really don't need that public education system. But because it's foisted upon us in such a manner, and people take upon it as a convenience and comfort, that we destroy our very own children.
And I don't want a man swimming against her in the pool. The fact is, I don't want her playing against boys in soccer. I don't even let my sons rough her up. Do you think I'm going to let your son rough her up? This is what we're talking about. Policy going back to the parents. Because if you think people who love America are willing to fight for it, you haven't met parents yet.
And I urge parents to join in this. This is incomprehensible what they are doing to children in these public centers. And we have to get a grip on it. And I, again, in my strongest opinion, I think that's the parents' job, duty, responsibility at the ultimate highest priority.
If it's producing undesirable outcomes for women, then regardless of whether or not it's
desirable, undesirable outcomes, do you think that the desirable outcomes are the fact that we went from having a 4% divorce to having a 55% divorce? We went from almost no women having mental illness to 1 in 4 women having mental illness. Do you think the fact that the female hormone regulation from birth control, which leads to this mental illness, has been good? I mean, I can go on
actually,
and on
I do,
and on.
and I can explain why I think a lot of those things are good.
Okay, I can't wait to hear it.
Higher divorce rate. I think there's probably a lot of women in the past when there was a 4% divorce rate that wish they could have gotten divorced, but
that wish they could have gotten divorced. But because they had a higher standard of moral ethics in sticking to itiveness and working through problems instead of taking an easy route, such as welfare and Social Security, and taking half of the man's income and making him destitute so you can live a happy life as a woman, giving a directive as if though you're the man who can protect that child. You need someone to protect you.
But they felt either through social pressure or they just legally couldn't get divorced. We're not able to. And I think that if more women are...
No, it's not a social pressure or legality. Again, it goes back to the moral ethics. Again, people are losing those moral ethics. They're giving them up for comforts and convenience, including that marriage. Even that marriage is false. That's a commercial marriage certificate. Commercial marriage license, they call it.
Are getting divorced, it's
really bad for children.
If it's producing undesirable outcomes for women, then
really bad for children. Again, you are not protecting those children. You're helping to indoctrinate them into the concept that there are no good men, that women have to take over the rule, and that if they want to grow up and be a good man, they have to be like a woman. It's a total displacement, and it's sick. And with that, we've come to the end of our stream for tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining me. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Get this information out. I want to thank everybody again for your support here as far as doing that in the past. We're close to 3,320 subscribers again already. So we are moving, and I appreciate that support. In the meantime, there's a PayPal link for anybody that wants to share some love. And then you guys know me. I love you. But I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. That's to say, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you and have a good night. Bye now.